Diana. Fighting does not make you a hero.
What if I promise to be careful? Just a shield, then.
Wonder Woman, starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, and directed by Patty Jenkins, is the first female-directed live-action movie to have a budget of at least $100 million. Think about that for a second. Overall, this movie is pretty good. It's a pretty good time at the movies. You will have a lot of fun with this movie. If you like action, if you like a fish out of water story, the action is very, very good. I would say some of the story, some of the dialogue, some of Gal Gadot's dialogue performances are a little bit inconsistent, but nothing that drags the movie down. If you're comparing this to the previous Zack Snyder Superman movies, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, or the other DC movie, Suicide Squad, at least the DC Extended Universe movies, it is leagues and miles and centuries beyond those. It is a very fun movie. It is very colorful. It's a little long. There are definitely some moments that could have been trimmed down. Some of the earlier sections, because this movie is basically cut into two pieces. You have the origin story going way, way, way back. We're seeing Wonder Woman as a little girl. We see her age. We see the female-only Amazonian secret island. And we get to see a lot of that history. It moves fairly fast through these moments. It does a decent job of setting up the different characters. Her mother, the mother's sister, who is the leader of the general and is teaching Wonder Woman these battle skills. And we see the push and the pull and the dynamic of the mother fearing war and her sister and Wonder Woman herself, Diana, wanting to embrace that is something that is inside of them. And those parts, they do the job fine. They drag a bit though, which is funny because they're going so fast through a lot of these different setups. Once Chris Pine enters the picture from a crashed plane and the Germans first storm the island, we get a wonderful action sequence. And speaking of the action, that is this movie's strength. The action is great. It is varied. And it's a real highlight of the movie. The third act of the movie is your general, very, very long action sequence, but there are plenty of other action scenes interspersed throughout the movie with a lot of great variety, and they're very, very well done. So once she leaves the island with Chris Pine to go find war, is what she's searching for. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing except a great Wonder Woman movie. That's when the movie really picks up. We have some scenes in London. We have some scenes on the front. Now, an interesting part of this movie is that it is mixing a sort of gritty World War I realism with that kind of Marvel jokey comic book movie we've come to love and has been very, very successful. And then also with some very campy villains. The villains in this film, like many superhero movies, aren't great. DC usually does a better job with villains. I would say that for the most part, the villains are a little over the top and campy and flat. They're not terrible. They don't take you out of it, but they delivered a few laughable lines. Where that comes into be a bit of an issue is that when you're mixing this gritty World War I realism, mustard gas, I mean, you see some pretty horrific war shots in here that I won't spoil. But when you mix that with the comic book style jokiness that they're going for and some of the lighter tones and the campy villains, it can come off a bit funny in a way you don't really want to be funny. However, you push past that, the action is great, the pieces seem to meld together enough, and overall it's a pretty great time at the movies. I don't think you would regret spending your money and watching this. As for Gal Gadot, she does a pretty great job as Wonder Woman. She handles the naivety of somebody who's grown up on just one island and has only known one way of life fairly well. She's very expressive with her face. She pulls off that fish out of water, strong, naive, sort of like the original Superman. For some reason I'm thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins. When he comes from a perfect island and he's a perfect guy and he meets Danny DeVito and the horrors of real life. And they make some nice statements about that, about seeing it from an outsider's perspective, how foolish and how heartbreaking war is. And I think if you look at it in a political standpoint from now, there have been some philosophers that have said men have ruled civilization for many thousands of years in times of war, in times of battle and conquest. But as we reach more of a utopian society where we shouldn't need war, is it time for women to take the charge and to, bring the world together in a sort of communal way? And, that's a political discussion and philosophical discussion. But I think that this movie does a pretty good job of taking a very light look at that. Mind you, the way they're taking a look at it is that this woman, Diana, Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, who wants peace, is going to do it by kicking some serious ass. And kicking ass she does. You don't get enough of the full-on Gal Gadot action scenes with a nice wide angle. There are a lot of cutaways, what looks to me like a lot of stunt work, a lot of slow motion, and that's the modern style of editing combat together and action together. But when you do see Gal Gadot, I think she pulls it off pretty well, and I like her as the choice. I'm always going to be interested in seeing some, maybe a different female that is a bit more kick-ass, a bit more physical. But I think that in the action scenes that they let her do, she did a fairly good job. The movie's a little long, like I mentioned earlier. They could have trimmed it down a bit. But overall, you're going to get a lot of great action. You're going to get some funny moments with the fish out of water. You're going to get a pretty decent origin story. And I would have to say that I would give Wonder Woman, as a fun time at the movies, I'm tilting between a 3 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5. And I think that the second half is so strong and so fun that I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching. We have plenty more movie reviews and game reviews on the channel, especially our series on Harry Potter. Myself and Matthew Owen are reviewing every single Harry Potter movie. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
What are you?
You will soon find out.